Welcome to Radical Wellness TV. This is a continuation, Chapter 3 of Sometimes God Has a Kid's Face. And I'm just going to read it to you. Sister Mary Rose Nikiti, give her credit for all that she's done for people, especially the children. Chapter 3, I was getting beaten up all the time, he said. The boy placed both his hands gently over his eyes and then plopped his body onto the couch in the middle of our crisis center floor. The first few minutes he was a bundle of nerves and reckless anxiety. He burrowed his eyes deeper into his hands. He rocked back and forth in fits and starts. He sighed and grunted syllables I couldn't quite discern. But slowly, as the seconds ticked off, I began to see his mind and his heart drift away from us. The hands that just moments ago were pushing against his eyes now stopped. The nervous rocking eased until his body was now swaying back and forth in a slow, rhythmic motion. And then, as the frown that had been on his face finally gave way to a contented smile, he moved his right hand away from his eyes and placed his thumb inside his mouth. It was the most relaxed I had ever seen him. It was a long time before Joey woke up and returned back to our world. From the quizzical look on his face, I could tell he was surprised to see me still standing there. "I'm sorry I did that just then," he said. "Hid from you like that." "I didn't mean to be rude or anything," he said. "I guess it's just something that helps me deal with stuff," he said. Sometimes when I feel really uncomfortable, I just have to close my eyes and go away. Usually it's only for a couple minutes, but sometimes I lose track of time." Joey leaned forward on his chair, and then he stood up. Then he walked around to the back of the chair, then he came back around to the front. Now that his eyes were open to see the world, he had trouble staying still to deal with it. "I understand," I said. "Don't think anything of it." I said, "Do you want to tell me how you ended up here?" I asked. "No special reason," he said, the nervous look in his eyes betraying his words. I guess I just couldn't take it anymore." "What happened?" I asked. He got up again, walked around the couch, and plopped himself back down. "Well, I had this uncle who, he used to do stuff to me. Sexual stuff," he said. "He used to come over when my parents weren't around, and he would do all this stuff to me," he said. "Did you tell your parents?" "Yeah, I told them, but they didn't believe me. He said. "It wasn't like they cared anyway," he said. "My parents used to argue all the time, and they always seemed mad at me," he said. "When they got really mad, it used to be pretty bad. They used to beat me and stuff," he said. "I could show you the marks if you'd like." I nodded and let him know that wouldn't be necessary. So I guess this is going to sound really stupid to you. I used to try to get away, he said. "I'd go up to my room and just go inside the closet. I used to go in there for hours," he said. "It was the only place where I felt safe. Then about a year ago, it just got to be too much. I was getting beaten up all the time," he said, "and all that other stuff," he said. "I couldn't stand it anymore," he said. "I just had to leave." I thought it would be better, but his voice began to choke up and it trailed off and was lost. He didn't have to finish the sentence. I've heard kids tell me this 1,000 times before. Out of his house, away from his closet, Joey found a world most of us will never see. A street life filled with dead ends and abuse and terror and relentless pain. He bent his head down and hid his hands in his face. I think his body and heart wanted to cry, but there weren't any tears left. I put my hand on his shoulder and told him what a great kid he really was. He's ours now. His family has abused him, and the streets have nearly destroyed him. Like so many of the kids we will see this coming year, and we'll see more than 60,000 kids at our doorstep. That's just one doorstep in the United States, not even in the world. Joey's insides have almost been destroyed. It's not the physical pain he feels that most worries me, although the hunger and sickness he carries are almost enough to destroy any kid. It's Joey's insides that break my heart, the fact he has been emotionally destroyed. To kids like Joey, the real world is so harsh, so unforgiving, so devoid of hope and love and compassion that they must create another fantasy world just to survive. Given where he's been and what he's seen and how he's hurt, it makes perfect sense for Joey to separate himself from the real world, because his fantasy world is the only place he has ever known peace and contentment. Of course, this makes our world at Covenant House increasingly difficult. During my 10 years here, the number of kids like Joey has literally mushroomed. These kids come to us with a whole range of special needs that require more help in more ways than the usual homeless kid. The usual homeless kid, I wince just writing those words. More than any other kid, children like Joey come to us literally dangled by a thread, totally unattached to anyone or anything he can call his own. Either we save him or the world will forever lose him. His situation is that precarious. Our responsibility to him is that serious. I know you and Joey have never met, and you probably never will, but you and God are very best things in his life right now. Your prayers and your helping hands and your support of this life-saving mission, and literally the only things pulling Joey back for the precipice right now. That was chapter 3. We're going to go on to chapter 4, but I'm going to go ahead and read what was written by a Covenant house kid. Our love. Sometimes I wonder how people judge our love. They never seem to notice that it comes from heaven above. But if our love is strong and true and solid to the soul, then listening to them is not what we'll do. Our love will be bold. Our love we have will shine through storms. No matter how rough the times, forever and ever, we'll be there, together, like the sun. Yes, it will shine. Written by a Covenant house kid. Anyway, on to chapter 4. Love life and life will love you back. I could say hate life and life will hate you back too. Let's get out of that mode and lighten up in the world. Let's use our love. Help where you can. Bye-bye for now.